Today I'm going to talk about 3 pro-abortion movies. I'm probably going to get emotional, and I'm definitely going to fucking swear, because fuck this entire goddamn country. This is ridiculous. We are an embarrassment to the world. What the fuck are we fucking doing? I'm going to talk about Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, Plan B, and Grandma. First up is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. This movie is fucking amazing. I thought to myself a few days ago, I'm like, hey Charlie, it's been a while since a movie has made you cry. I wonder if like something changed about me, like maybe I'm a lot less emotional person now, or maybe it's like I just haven't found the right movie. It was that last thing, because I fucking bawled my eyes out to this movie a lot. It was 2 scenes in particular, but yeah, this movie's great. The premise is very similar to the following 2 movies, but it is about this teenage girl who needs to get an abortion, but this country fucking sucks, and so it's very difficult to get, and so her friend helps her on her journey to get this abortion. And this movie is really fucking good. It is a little slow, and it was a little quiet, but that was done very intentionally. That was the correct choice to go with this movie, because it makes you linger in these moments of anxiety. While watching this movie, I was incredibly anxious, because I'm like, the world she's in is not good. She has been abused. She has been hurt. She needs to not be pregnant, but the world around her is not letting her make that fucking super easy choice. And it fucking sucks. The best scene of the movie is without a doubt the scene in which the title of the movie comes from. It's the scene that made me cry the hardest. And not to sound hyperbolic, but it is one of the most heartbreaking and emotionally raw moments captured on film. Fucking breaks your soul. And if it doesn't, I don't understand who you are as a person. Honestly, I keep thinking back to this scene, and it makes me want to cry. It's gonna be a scene that stays with me for a very, very long time, and I feel like I'm just gonna be doing like some regular random day life stuff, like out grocery shopping or out playing disc golf, or I don't know, doing French lessons on my phone. And then suddenly something will trigger my head and I'll remember the scene, and then I'll just start crying. It's, and I don't just say that like hyperbolically, like it's happened with a different movie with Our Friend, which I also highly recommend. There's a moment near the end of the film that like is incredibly sad, but also very beautiful. Fuck. And it randomly pops into my head from time to time, and I just have to stop. It's really fucking sad. And the thing is, it's okay to be sad. It's a lesson my dad instilled in me in a young age. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be emotional. Let out your emotions. It's good. Don't let your emotions consume you forever, because that'd be bad. You gotta do regular life shit. But definitely let out your emotions. I did check out the Reddit discussion thread, and there were some stupid comments that I just want to counter, because they were complaining about how all of the men in the movie are seen as these creepy, terrible people, which they definitely were. There's no denying that. But to complain about it, to say that not all men are like that, completely misses the point of this fucking movie. This young girl was abused. We are viewing the world through her eyes after going through some very traumatic ass shit. It makes sense that you see future potential abuse wherever you fucking go. So again, it makes sense that when someone is abused by a man, that they then find other men to be triggering. I also need to praise the 2 main actresses. They're fucking great. They rock it. I really hope they have incredibly successful careers after this, because they fucking knocked it out of the park. This movie is great. I 100% recommend it. Just be prepared for lots of sadness. Our next up is Plan B. This is a 2021 film, also starring two fucking badass women, and the basic premise is, after a brief and very embarrassing sexual encounter, two young women set out to get some Plan B. This movie tonally is the complete opposite of Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. It is a raunchy comedy, and it very much so follows more road trip tropes. To its detriment a little bit, but honestly, I can forgive this movie for all of its faults because the two main actors are fucking charismatic as hell. You love them. They bounce off each other so well. You long for their successes and mourn their defeats, and they work wonderful together. And then all the tertiary characters are so much fun too. There's a clerk that's really interesting. There's this guy who's high on probably meth who's really fun. There's a really religious kid who is he's trying his hardest to be like fun loving and get around with everyone, but he says the stupidest fucking shit, and it's he's great. I feel for him. I really feel for him because it's not his fault because he's trying to be inclusive, but he's being dumb. He's so dumb. He just doesn't know any better. And I get it. So that's funny. And it's fine. I really love the ending. It worked really, really well for me. My only complaints are just like it follows road trip movie tropes too much. There's a drug sequence, which was really, really fun. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, especially because it subverts the trope by not just like, oh, 10 minutes have gone by. I'm not high anymore because the joke's over. No, 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 no. You're high for a long ass time. And they had this stupid like falling out thing near the end between the two main characters, and I'm like, I mean, I get why it's happening. It didn't feel the most natural. There were other things that made them have the falling out, which I thought they were gonna do. I mean, they did do, but it was different. It wasn't the best. But again, I don't really care about the movie's faults. It's funny, it's ridiculous. It definitely deserves raunchy as a genre tag, that's for sure. But it's fun. They're so fun-loving. It's just great. So again, I definitely, without a doubt, recommend this movie. Just, you know, you gotta be down for raunchy shit, but it's great. It's great. I loved it. And lastly is Grandma. This is a 2015 film starring Lily Tomlin and Julia Garner. It also features Judy Greer, America's Treasure. And the basic premise is, again, similar to the other two films, Julia plays a teenager who, again, needs an abortion. And she has an appointment, thankfully. The unfortunate thing, though, is she doesn't have the money for it. And she doesn't feel she can go to Mom, so instead she goes to Grandma, but unfortunately Grandma is a little short on cash in the moment, so they go on a little adventure to round up the money for the abortion. And it's pretty dang solid. I loved Lily. She was great. She's spunky and ridiculous. She does yell a lot, but honestly she has every reason to be emotional. They explain it at the beginning of the movie. Julia does amazing as always. I love seeing her and stuff. She looks so tiny in this though. Like I'm used to her in Ozark, you know, her as a regular adult. But in this she was 20 at the time and she just looks like a tiny little baby. I mean, like I know she's a little person, but like she looks so little. Oh my goodness. She's definitely believable as a tiny little teenager. My complaint about this movie, this is still a good movie. I put it in the quite like section, but the reason it got brought down, I hate making this complaint because I feel like I am not the person who can really give this complaint the best, and that's the acting felt wooden to me. And the reason why I hesitate to say this is because I'm not an actor. I never really did acting stuff, but I feel like that the word is the best fit for what I feel is wrong. It just kind of felt like, I don't know, I mean, loosen up a bit. I don't think she was bad for the entire film. I just felt like at times it was just kind of like, it wasn't the best, and I don't think it was just her, not to just target her. So my guess would probably be the combination of like, you know, Lily's old age mixed with potentially not the best editing to hide kind of the stiffness, and then also not the best direction to like help get rid of the stiffness on the day of, would be my guess. I don't fucking know. What the fuck do I know? Even with my complaints though, this movie's still really solid. I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of either of those two actors. They're pretty dang solid, and it's a good, important movie. But yeah. I can't do my regular outro because I'm just like on the brink of tears again. I'm really impressed that I haven't like pouring down my face cried, because I definitely did when I was practicing this. So good on me for crying out all my tears for the most part. But now I'm like wrapping up and my body's like, oh, you didn't cry yet. We should cry again. And so now my body's just starting to break down again and being like, hey, let's cry. We're gonna cry. We're gonna cry any second now. You're gonna say that thing and now we're gonna cry or something. I don't know. I hate everything. All right, rankings is what we're doing. First up is Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, sitting at number 3 in the really liked category. It was definitely in contention for the first spot. Importance-wise, it definitely deserves it up there. But I struggled to put it above Ocean's 11 or One Cut of the Dead, because Ocean's 11 is one of my all-time favorite movies ever, and One Cut of the Dead is such an amazing experience that I just, still to this day, like it's been months since I've watched it, but I still like can vividly remember all of it, and it's such a great experience, and I definitely want to watch it again. Definitely want to watch it again with one of my friends. So I couldn't just bring myself to push it over those other two, but it's definitely deserving of this high placement. And then after that is Plan B, sitting number 28 in the really like section. And then bringing up the rear is Grandma, sitting at number 61 in the quite like section. And this is out of a total of 150 old movies so far this year. Do want to add real quick though, even though this is a really fucking long episode already, I got all 3 of these movie recommendations from an article from The Hollywood Reporter titled Abortion in a Film, THR Critics Recommend 12 Movies to Revisit. This came out May of 2022, so I just want to quickly call attention to those other films as well. Dirty Dancing from 1987, which is a movie that I do plan on watching soon. 4 Months, 3 Weeks, and 2 Days, which I haven't seen, but was close to watching for this video. I'm gonna mess up the pronunciation of this, but it's Lingui, The Sacred Bonds from 2021. One Sings, the Other Doesn't from 1977. That's one I'm definitely gonna watch in the future. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That's a movie I watched 2 years ago. It was almost the last movie I saw in theaters before the world shut down. And in 2020, it was my number 3 favorite movie of the year. So I definitely, again, without a doubt, recommend that movie. The abortion in that movie is not as prominent to the plot, but it is still important. Story of Women from 1988. Again, haven't seen it, but do plan on watching it as soon as I can. The Surrogate from 2020. I'll probably potentially watch this one. Unpregnant from 2020. Again, watched it in 2020. I did like it for its views on abortion and making abortion more of a normal, commonplace thing. It is also another road trip movie, but it more closely follows the tropes of road trip movies, so it was kind of frustrating because it could have been more original. But it's still a good, fun movie, and it's got Haley Lou Richardson, who's great. I love her a lot. And lastly is Vera Drake from 2004, which I also haven't seen, but again, do plan on watch in the future. And if you have any other pro-abortion movies, pro-choice movies, I recommend. I'll gladly watch whatever I can find. I hope that you are safe, and that if you need or want to get an abortion, that you have the ability to. God, I hope we fucking turn this country around. It's a fucking shit show. Alright, I'm gonna go cry for a little bit and then watch something happy fun times. And then go to bed.